today we have a special guest in the studio.
You design.
Everybody's been waiting to hear her.
Yes, and she's been making headlines.
You know what I'm saying?
In the recent past.
She, NARC Kenya Party.
You design.
Was rebranded.
Yeah, was it rebranded or done away with and then we formed a new one?
Rebranded. We'll ask about that.
Yeah.
I think it's rebranded to the People's Liberation Party. And then a few months ago,
yes,
she launched her autobiography,
Against the Tide.
Martha Karua, senior counsel, is on a roll.
Kabisa mtwango power.
And but guess what?
Yeah,
she wants to be president.
She still wants to be president.
Imagine that.
And she has what it takes. Last time unajua alikuwa running mate.
Yes.
Now all the ladies in this country walisema kama ni Martha.
Yeah.
And I fight for this, we are behind her.
And now she says she's not going to be anyone's running mate. Amekataa.
Yeye ndio anataka kuongoza.
Aende.
Your design.
The purple party's in the house.
Our royalty.
Good to see you, senior counsel.
Thank you for having me.
You rebranded NARC Kenya. Why?
Let's first forget that name and only say People's Liberation Party. Because you don't want to go back to yesterday.
Yeah.
We rebranded firstly. Any house, even a person, needs a makeover after a while. The clothes you wore a decade ago may not fit you today for various reasons. If it's a house, you may be having a leaking roof, you want everything to be okay. So the need to brand NARC Kenya came from the membership. One, the name does not immediately give you any meaning. Most people will ask you, what is NARC? And when you tell them the National Rainbow Coalition, they'll not connect. You've got to start a long story of where we started. So we wanted a name that speaks to the people. If you tell the people People's Liberation Party, they don't ask you anything because they get the meaning from the name. So an easy name you can connect with, a name that speaks to you. Secondly, at this time, as a nation, we are down with so many oppressive things on our heads. Taxation, overtaxation, access to health has almost been erased by the SHIF. Education, our university students are not getting the support they need. A new creature came in, the new funding model, declared unconstitutional by the court. The administration, instead of doing the logical thing, returning to help while they continue with the court case, have refused to fund students, causing thousands to be out and stranded. Killings, right to life and liberty are not taken seriously by this administration. Even just yesterday, there were demonstrations in Majengo over the killing of one boy. Instead of them coming out to explain and to quell the protests and promising action, they killed more and injured others. So we are in a exploitative, design is the colonial one, state, extractive, that extracts from you and gives you nothing. And at this time, people need hope. People are getting disillusioned. They need hope. So we chose a color that conveys that, and that is purple.
Yeah.
And purple with more purple, lilac is a lighter purple, and then white. We remain a flower party. The flower has changed color to purple.
Some might say, this is in line with Kotu.
I think we won't go there. When he shows us his lilac and white, we will get into a discussion. But I would advise him to actually patent the rainbow. Colors come from the sun. So if he can as well patent the rainbow and tell us colors belong to him, then we can have a discussion.
I asked you the other day, and I'll ask you again. You were Raila Odinga's running mate.
Yeah.
And now it seems like he's in government. He's all but in government.
He's definitely in government, though he denies it. Yes. even from his own utterances, when he says that he was asked to help and he gave a few experts, the way they're walking step by step, he definitely is in government, but unofficially, because there is no post-election coalition agreement.
Yeah.
It's actually against the law to have one leg in government, one leg in opposition. All the seats for the watchdog committees, public accounts, public investments, and there are 3 committees in each branch, so 6 of them ought to be chaired by people who are totally out of government. Yeah, now ODM is expected to be a watchdog to ODM ministers. It doesn't make
Can't
sense.
work like
No.
that.
Yeah.
Are you disappointed with him?
Yeah, did it rub you
Yes,
the wrong way?
I am disappointed. Naturally, yes, because that's not what our partnership was about. But then I recognize as an individual he has his rights. So all I'm saying to him is, my brother, why don't you do it the right way? Have a post-election coalition agreement. Exit all committees that should be, let your party exit all committees that should be held by opposition. By now, the Wiper Party and other opposition parties in parliament like DAPK, Jubilee could be chairing those committees. And when I say Jubilee, the faction of Jubilee that is not in government, because that also.
You know what? Did they ever ask you, did Kenya Kwanza ask you, listen, come join us?
No, we have not. It's nil by now mouth between me and the rogue KK administration. Yeah, and I wouldn't. Even if anybody did, I wouldn't. And they know it. Yeah.
Why do you call it rogue administration?
It's gone rogue. Look at what it's doing to the people. If we just start there, government is created by the people to act in the best interests of the people. Killing people right, left, and center is not in the interest of the people. Look at how they killed our young people during the protests, peaceful protests. And then one day you just open fire, premeditated, because there were snipers on the roof, and you kill people who are peaceful. From there on, it's been a roller coaster, killings almost every other day, abductions, resorting to torture, killing. In actual fact, it looks like the KK administration, if we echo Dr. Ruto's word, when I put the Bible down, it's like he put both the Bible and the Constitution aside and is acting from with a script from hell itself. Because you do everything against the people. Right to life and dignity is gone. Demolitions in the name of affordable housing. Do you create homelessness and desperation in a quest to build houses? For whom are you building houses if you are dispossessing even those who have titles and have built dwellings for themselves? And those without titles, those informal settlements are their homes. You must give them as much respect as you give palatial homes. If for any reason you have a right to demolish, you must give notice. And if it involves masses, you must, as an administration, prepare an alternative place where those people are going. You do not create a humanitarian crisis so that you can solve it. So I say this is a rogue administration from every sense of the word. Look at how they are spending our hand-earned taxes for self-aggrandizement, for the comfort of the political elite, while not paying attention to the basic needs of Kenyans. Education, health are basic needs. Shelter is a basic need. Even the right to adequate food is a basic need. You ignore that and you go to luxury for the ruling elite. It is just crazy.
Speaking of crisis, which you just mentioned, what about SHIF?
SHIF is a scam. Actually, its design is to deny people access to health. It's now coming out in the open that Adani is still in Kenya. You remember he had that, whatever, to bring in the digital, whatever, to SHIF.
Yeah.
And now money being collected is being held by those entities. And when we say Adani, there must be a Kenyan Adani. You know, people who are collaborating, because you cannot throw him out in the airport deal and retain him on health. These are people who are hell-bent on siphoning the money of Kenyans. And when we were shown the directorship of the company dealing with the health deal, you can see people right in the administration, including the wife of one D, and others close to the administration.
Yeah.
It's the same people. William Ruto has a deep interest in it when you see the shareholding. So they're holding the money deducted from people with pay slips mainly, and not pumping it back to health.
Isn't it a shame, because the biggest losers are Kenyans? They're dying already.
The most vulnerable are the most affected, because you and me may have an alternative of going to a private hospital and seeking help. It may bite your pocket, but you still have an option. The vulnerable have no option. They can hardly put a meal on the table. You have paid for the SHIF, yet you cannot get help from it. And the question is, how much as Kenyans can we tolerate? Is there something we can do to tell this rogue regime that enough is enough? He's also crippling the other health facilities that come to the aid of the people, mainly the ones owned by the religious organizations. The amounts owed to them is literally almost forcing them to shut down. So you deny people health in public facilities because you've run them down. You then also disable the popular private health facilities held by the religious organizations. You literally is actually attempted murder, or because Kenyans are dying. Children, the aged, and all. Yeah.
Do you believe there's ever been a time in this country where the country's political class has ever had the interest of the wananchi at heart? Any time?
Of course.
Which time?
I have worked as a politician, as an MP, as a minister, and I had the interests of Kenyans. I was given the water ministry by Kibaki. I turned it round. I was given the justice docket at a difficult time. I did what I had to do. And eventually, even after I left, a new constitution came forth, because we had laid the foundation for it. And I was not the only one delivering. When you say the Kibaki regime delivered, you can count the ministries that delivered. And in the first cabinet, a majority delivered. Even when corruption started creeping back, it was a very small section of government. And that's why there was delivery. If I remember the early parliaments I was in, a majority of people worked for the people. And that was a time of low pay, but you could get people very vocal on issues relating to the people. Today, when the pay is comfortable, you can hardly get quorum in that house. You hardly get people. It's just a handful who are speaking about the needs of Kenyans. Parliamentarians, both at the national and county level, have become tenderpreneurs. They're busy chasing tenders in the very offices they're supposed to be auditing. In the counties, it's more direct. They are also seeking tenders there. It's as though now they are driven only by self-aggrandizement. It's only a handful you can point to. Something needs to give. And I keep saying that when the Aringo Commission recommended more comfortable salaries for members of parliament were supposed to be full-time. Those salaries had come with the rider. You must be full-time. You must delink from business, from other enterprises for the duration you are a member of parliament. Parliament took the money, but never stopped private enterprise. And it's gotten now, conflict of interest is at its worst. You hear an elected official trying to say, SHIF is okay, give it time. How much time? How many must die? And now that we know why people are dying for lack of access, it's because the money is being put in private accounts. It's benefiting other people. So how long do we have to wait? How much money do they want to siphon? And to Kenyans, I ask, how long must we tolerate this sort of behavior? What can we do? Remember that citizens are sovereign. How can we raise our voices to be loud enough to make it completely uncomfortable for these people to go on? What if we all said that on a given day, if this is not stopping, we will stay home and not go to work? Can this economy survive 3 days? We should be able to force this regime, this rogue regime, to do something, you know. And I remember that in the June 2024 protests by the Gen Z, they were able to stop this rogue regime. Ruto was forced to sack his entire cabinet except for Musalia and himself. And then he rebuilt it. Just the same thing, because that was like...
it was a mind game.
Yeah, it was a mind game. But the fact that people can even reach that stage and force somebody, though in a lying tone, to tell us things will change, because he lied. His favorite pastime. How long more can we tolerate? Is there something else we can do? We don't have to give him more people to shoot, but there are many, many ways of stopping him, and we need to think, reason together. We don't have to wait for 2027. We can stop him now because we have the power, but we have to act collectively to say no.
When you say, let's say 3 days of not going to work, can Kenyans afford it? Like regular Mwananchi, can they afford it?
We have public holidays. Can we afford them? What happens on a public holiday? And these days there are so many.
Tunapiganga Friday mpaka Tuesday.
Si ndio nasema. Just that. You see, just because this government, the economy is collapsing, it can't survive a day or two. Even the way we are going on, the economy will likely collapse.
And are you, as a veteran politician, betting on the youth? Ni vijana pekee wanaweza waka bring the mabadiliko yenye tunataka, because unakumbuka during the Gen Z protest walisema we are not our fathers, we are not our parents. So definitely. Are you betting on the Kenyan youth to bring about change?
In fact, I would say I would be disappointed if the Gen Z were their fathers or their parents, so to say. You expect your child to be better, an improvement of you. And indeed they are, because they were able to mobilize in ways we never foresaw. They were able to come together on issues only. They were able to use digital power in a way that it has never been used before. They lead. Even today, those protests have had ripple effects, not just in Kenya, but worldwide. And I would say this to them. In your home where you are coming from, you have parents. It's not a home of Gen Zs only. So you have maybe your siblings who are slightly older than you, the millennials, and you have the older than you. Kenya remains a family as a nation. So there can be a world of Gen Zs, a world of the old. It's always a mixture, but they are the majority. So I would expect that they participate robustly and they be the majority in whatever administration. If you look at Parliament today, the young people are more. Being young is not equal to being transparent and accountable. But if we look at the values we want and the leadership, the sort of leadership we want, the values they embrace, then we should be able to get good Gen Zs who want to be in politics to get elected, and also a mixture even of the old to get elected. Even a government ought to represent the nation. Representing the nation means having a mixture. That's my view.
At the same time, Kenya Kwanza has figured out how to silence the Gen Zs.
By killing them, abducting them, bribing them, anything.
Exactly.
They're buying them off.
Yes.
You see a couple of the leaders of...
of the Gen Zs, away from the brutal approaches to silencing them, they are equally being sucked into the political class.
Yeah, they are now loving the finer things of life. Yeah.
And you also were spotted with one of the Gen Zs.
We were spotted.
Yeah.
Because I invited all the political leaders to my launch,
Yeah.
and Morara was one of those who showed up. And if you look at my party, you look at my Secretary General, you see she's a Gen Z. You look at my deputy, you see he's a millennial. So within the party, we also have Gen Z.
Yeah.
So my invited list reflects the face of Kenya and all the ages. Yeah.
What do you think is the right approach from your party's point of view? Having Gen Zs as part of your political agenda, or you fronting them for leadership as you guide them as a veteran politician? What do we foresee, especially with the 2027 general election?
I think wherever you
coming.
have young people, for us in the People's Liberation Party, they are part of the party, they are part of the executive, they are decision makers. They are not just there to flower. They are decision makers, and I expect them moving forward to be participants like it's always, even in elections. Those who come forward will be supported. We embrace and support because you're looking. Representation is having the face of the people you represent. And they being the majority, I would expect they would still show up as a majority.
Because we feel like it's a high time that the older politicians took a backseat, be there still actively by way of guiding. Because look, if we talk about Martha Karua, we talk about Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, even Eugene, despite the fact that he's a bit younger, and all these other politicians, even Ruto himself, the president,
My DVD.
my DVD, they've been there for decades, over 30 years maybe in politics. The change that they said they'll bring since 1992 is still the change they want to bring in 2027. I mean, is it a high time that we brought a fresh blood, a new crop of leaders, and then you are there as mentors, as people who will guide them?
I say people are never brought. You don't ring a bell and then push people into a paddock to be leaders. People step up. I stepped up as a young person, vied and floored an older politician.
1992.
I invite the Gen Z. Anybody who wants the same seat I want, step up, come over, floor me. But if I convince the people that my track record, that every space I've occupied, I have done something positive, if I'm able to convince them, I'll floor you, my son or my daughter. But if you convince them and floor me, I'll step back and support your administration. It's competition, never on a silver platter. So you want the seat, go for it. Floor whoever is on it, even if it's your dear parent. Go for it. Politics is competition, and we cannot have any law that says past this age. We can have a minimum age. You can even have a maximum if you like. But between those poles of minimum and maximum, then you must let everybody front themselves. And we've seen countries of the world being led by people of all ages and being led well. The most remarkable one, New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, she was below 40. She wasn't exactly a Gen Z, maybe a millennial, but she did so well. We've also had countries in the Scandinavian, mainly I think, was it Finland or whatever, led by a very young lady in her 34s, actually, still youthful. And she led well. We've had older people also leading superbly. We've had people who are not so old and not so young doing so badly, as in William Ruto and other people around the world. So it's not about age, it's about what you represent.
Why do you want to be president?
To make change. That's the reason I'm in politics. And if you check where I've been, in opposition in parliament, milestones, including IPPG. That was the first term. The second term, participation, laws, and eventually being able to bring collectively the change of regime, the first since independence in 2002. As Minister of Water, rolling out water sector reforms, which remain today but have been almost brought down by corruption. I fought the corruption in water. In fact, reduced the cost of boreholes by 75% in my 3 years in water. Governance had improved. Governance has again been eroded. Using that model, I know how to fight corruption, restore sanity, restore rule of law, and also ensure that there is effective enforcement. Because really what we are lacking is discipline. And discipline in a nation is maintained by the rule of law. We have kept the law aside. We do as we please. Our constitution says how we should use public resources. That's not how we are using them. It says how the police, how everybody should relate to the people. It talks about use of excessive force. You shouldn't use excessive force on the people. Respect for the right to life. It commands the administration to look into the basic needs of the people. All that is not done. There's no money for that, but there's money for luxury, on the other hand, of a few. Our nation, our state has been captured by a handful of political elites. Repurposed, they are now using it for self-aggrandizement when many suffer without education, without food, without health, without shelter. Land grabbing has become a cancer as well. You know, you find people's houses being demolished, like in Nairobi. They demolished under the guise of those affected by floods. But they went beyond even the riverine to grab plots of people who have titles. And even for those who are on the riverine and had been affected by the flood, how do you come demolishing the shelters remaining without any alternative accommodation to these people? They are grabbing not to save them from the floods, but in order to grab that land. You never cause a humanitarian crisis as an administration. You actually prevent. And yes, you can move people to better place, but you have to have prepared. Not move them and then think about them later. And by the way, I haven't seen any resettlement program for any mass demolition. So this is the worst regime Kenya has ever seen. And when once the late President Moi said that one day we will say better him, I never knew the day would come and I'll tell you better him. It used to happen, and I saw it, that when the country is under threat of disintegration, Moi would always give way. Ruto would rather everybody died and he remains president.
But by the way, many people don't know that you walked away from former President Moi's functions.
I did, just to demonstrate my disagreement, having been denied a chance to rebut the allegations they were making against my party then, the Democratic Party, and its leader, Mwai Kibaki. I walked out of him because there's no law that requires me to listen to a president. But the law may prevent me from creating a nuisance in the meeting. So you deny me talking, then I'll talk by action. So I flashed to the DP salute just to show him I'm still in my party.
Guoko.
Yeah.
Were you scared?
And no.
As you were walking away?
I was so focused on what I'm doing that there was no shred of fear in me. That walk doesn't suggest any fear. No.
And
I was just looking ahead.
Are you now saying better the Moi regime than the current regime?
Yes.
Tell us more.
From everything. Look even at foreign policy. Do we have any? If you have someone sitting on the head of state seat who doesn't understand foreign policy, because the foreign policy docket belongs to the head of state, they give it to a minister, then it means you know nothing about the administration. Foreign policy doesn't come from your head. It comes from what you have collectively as a nation put together. And it also comes from looking at your associations with others. You cannot rise up and support Israel against the Palestinians when the policy of the AU, of which we are a member, is a two-state solution. And therefore, in this case, supporting Palestinians for Israel to withdraw its aggression from Palestinian land, you have to have a coherent foreign policy. You cannot meddle in a dispute in Sudan by taking sides, by bringing the RSF here to form government in your soil, forgetting that when he was heading IGAD, he had been asked to mediate and the generals had rejected him, saying that he is partial to the RSF. He was just confirming that. That's a personal decision. You are forcing Kenyans into your personal issues. It should be a collective decision. And you know, if it's a policy position, Kenyans can also protest about it, like they have protested the presence of RSF here. I actually suspect, because he knows he's so unpopular, he's having the RSF hoping they can help him when he brews civil war, you know, or maybe to remain in power by force, because I'm not able to see what. And up to now, nobody has told us what was happening. They're just trying to deny. But we look like a joke. In the DRC, when Kenyan forces went there were murmurs also that it is his personal interest in the mining there. So there's something about him and gold in Darfur and other minerals in DRC that is guiding what is the shambolic and, floating foreign policy, which is not firm. One day it's this, the other day it is that.
What about police officers in Haiti?
Look at that also. If America needed Haiti assisted, they are nearer than us, and they have the money. Why don't they take their troops there? So we are fighting proxy wars, because in Haiti too is a mineral-rich country. And America, through Trump, have come out. So I'm now guessing that we are in Haiti to represent American interests in the minerals. We should never fight proxy wars, not even for a friend. I don't think that those countries that stand with Palestine, led by South Africa, and I really personally feel South Africa represented us as Africans and the African position, there's no way they were going to vote for a candidate fronted by Dr. William Ruto. Raila's credentials are good, and he fought to even get 23 votes first round, to get 20. It shows he had the support. Had we had a coherent foreign policy, a respected person fronting him, respected in the continent, that's what I mean, he would have got the votes, the additional votes that were necessary. But there's no way, with the current lack of foreign policy by this administration, we were going to get far.
So you're saying that our reputation around the continent has deteriorated, has been
in the continent
dented?
And in the world has been dented.
And do you think it's because we are putting or giving very important dockets to people who have little or very no clue, like what they started indicated today, clueless health CS and stuff like that? Is it because it's more of rewarding people who are loyal to the administration as opposed to putting technocrats who understand what needs to be done in these dockets?
That's one of the reasons. But even those who appear to have the knowledge, look at how they are performing. It's not only the Lady Deborah who is not performing. Look, the CS Internal Security is a lawyer. So he understands the Constitution and the law. He was actually involved in the Constitution making. Why are we having police shoot to kill? Why are we having abductions? Why isn't the Constitution being followed? And why is there blatant violations of human rights on a daily basis? So if it's about clueless, is a cabinet that opts to act clueless even when they know. You see, Mudavadi, a seasoned politician, why are we flip-flopping on foreign policy? Or are they afraid to tell him? And I keep on saying, when you hold a public job, it is not compulsory. If you find your position untenable, go home. If you remain, then we know you are part and parcel of the problem. And that is what is happening. It's the entire
Cabinet.
There is collective responsibility.
Yeah.
So let's stop. We find it easier to just talk of women. Yes, the health CS is flip-flopping, but who isn't in that cabinet?
Everyone is.
Yeah. Show me who isn't.
And you once walked away from your ministry.
Yes, I walked out because it's not compulsory. If things are happening and you don't want your name to it,
Yeah.
get off. I went back to the back benches. I lost money, I lost power and influence, but I gained my conscience and
Repetition.
I was free to represent the people from the back benches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You indicated that it's like giving a farmer a djembe to
And
go
then
till.
tying their hands.
Yeah.
So how are you going to go on? Yeah. If it becomes untenable, but you remain, there is collective responsibility. What you see the CS Health unable to explain, she is a delegate of William Ruto. So that's William Ruto unable to explain. Yeah. When you see flip-flop on foreign policy, Mudavadi is a delegate of William Ruto. That is the flip-flop of William Ruto. Is the Ruto administration. So together, they bear the responsibility.
You've been closer to power. You've been in power.
Yeah.
For those who might not have come that close, how difficult is it when you are appointed to head a docket, a ministerial docket?
In Kibaki's administration, it was not difficult at all. We had a free hand to do what you're required to do. And in things that you need to consult, he was available for consultation. And cabinet meetings were collegial and there was discussion. You could oppose or support whatever is being proposed. But I am told that these days cabinet is a reading of one person, but this may have started a while later. After the Kibaki administration, the character of cabinet may have changed. I haven't been in those cabinets, so I cannot be a first-hand witness. I can only tell you it was a pleasure to apply ourselves, and no one single person leading a ministry has all the answers. You've got to rely on the experts within that ministry. I was not a water expert. I had knowledge on environment, but not really a water expert. So I had experts in the ministry. And once you rely on the human resource, the technocrats availed to you, you will succeed. And that success will have your name in it. If you're a good team leader to inspire others to do their work, then the credit comes to you. If you're unable to utilize your experts, you will appear as clueless as the KK regime of issues, and Ruto himself is appearing. Yeah.
But how is this happening, yet we have laws, we have senior councils, we have the judiciary? How are they getting away with it?
They are getting away with it because people appointed to positions have become stooges. Instead of applying yourself, saying no where you are required to say no, because you must be able to say no, Mr. President, no, Mr. CS, no, what are the permanent secretaries called?
PSS.
Principals. No, Mr. Principal Secretary.
Yeah.
They're still PSS. So you should be able to say no to your boss, but politely and from a position of knowledge. The word no has disappeared, I think, from the vocabulary of those holding positions.
Do you think there's too much micromanaging?
Yeah, but it's because micromanaging comes in because also we tolerate. You see, if one or two people were to down their tools and it can go on this way, there would be less and less of that. Yeah. If there were members of cabinet talking the way CS Muturi is talking, I think something would give.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens to someone like Rigathi Gachagua now? Where's his place?
Before one goes to power, you are still a person. So he's back as a citizen, and he's playing his role as a citizen. We all have the right to express ourselves, right to associate, etc., etc. So I bet he is standing in his place playing his role. And the question is, rather than focus only on those who have been in leadership and are still in leadership, as you focus on us, can we also individually focus on ourselves? What is your role in getting our country out of where it is? Are you supporting the leadership that wants to help doing that? Are you part of the movement to liberate Kenya? Kenya needs each one of us. It needs all of us together to act in concert. And if not all, it needs the majority of goodwill to come together, act in concert to stop the madness that is going on today.
Would you accept his support?
I'm already working with him. So it's not a question of accepting. But you work with all the people who are available and who see the need to urgently remove Kenya from where it is. But for me, as I work with everyone, I go with my values. And those values are not mine alone. They are the values we collectively agreed to and are embodied in Article 10 of our Constitution, that we shall be open, we shall be transparent, we shall be accountable, we shall respect human dignity, human life, all those things that are put there. Actually, Article 10 sets the pace even as you go further to the Bill of Rights. So once that gives us guidance of what we should do, even as we meet, those are the things that we begin to internalize and understand. It is not necessary that everybody you work with must see it your way, but there is a basic minimum you must agree on, that moving forward, these are the things we agree on. And I think those are the things that we who want to work together must level the ground with, because if you do not lay a good foundation, then the unity of purpose cannot be.
Right now, there's word about bringing Raila again in government by creating a prime minister's position, right? And we know it's the Kenyan people who elect the president and the deputy at the same time. From a legal perspective, what's your take on that? That
can only happen with constitutional amendments. So it follows under those constitutional amendments that must go to the referendum. And we would be discussing it to ask whether more positions are going to bring any meaning or help the lot of Kenyans. What we need is, with even the few positions that are there, utilize them effectively to change our lives. It's not about, and that's why as NARC Kenya then, we rejected NADCO. Because NADCO had nothing for the people, only for the leaders, positions for the leaders. So now they are saying, hurry up NADCO, because they want the prime minister's position, because they want leader of official opposition. But there is already a leader of opposition in parliament, leader of minorities, just a change of word. The word doesn't stop you from being active, from standing up for Kenyans. So for me, it is not a priority. And that's a discussion we would take robustly to Kenyans when the time comes. We must not allow unconstitutional constitutional amendments like BBI was.
Unconstitutional constitutional amendments
like BBI was.
It looks like the Pentagon is back.
It looks like they're trying to form it. But this time round, those in the opposition are not asleep. They are also putting in place measures to counter any form of oppression. We are united against oppression, against the dismembering of our constitution, against violation of the people's rights, against abuse and misuse of public resources.
Finally, do you think your life has always been about against the tide?
In a way,
like your book title.
In a way, yes, because if you stand up, those who stand up and speak openly about ills around them appear to always be against the tide. Because if it's in school where teachers are feared, if you are asking a question, however politely, you'll be seen as against the tide. If you talk openly against a regime like I do, you're seen like you're out against the tide. Because the silent majority may support but are not speaking. I'm now asking the silent majority in Kenya, let's not just murmur and complain where we are. Let us put our voices together and talk. Where are the professional associations? Are we going to let our nation fall to its knees while we are watching? Where are the business people? Where is the middle class? Because those at the bottom of the ladder, because maybe they feel the heat more, are always ready to raise their voices. Those who want seats, like myself and others, from MCA to presidency, will be trying to speak. But the businessmen, the middlemen, the professionals are mainly quiet. This time it's hurting everybody. Look at your pay slip. Look at your business environment. Look at everything that is happening. You have to fundraise every day for people you know, for relatives. If it's not for education, it's for health. It may be even for their upkeep that someone is coming to you. We've got to help ourselves. Everybody with a little money is taking a child to an academy instead of a public school because the system has been run down. But instead of us forcing accountability on the leadership so that that improves. Yesterday I was in a talk where someone said that we are providing private solutions to public problems. If it's in education, if it's in health, even security around the estates. Even infrastructure. Why don't we become as active in holding leaders to account? What if every place a leader went, flaunting their ill-gotten wealth? They're being told what you're doing is unacceptable. Whether it's a club, whether it's a church, whether it's a mall, you meet somebody, they're told that. They would find it untenable and they would choose to resign.
And it was almost working during the protest
of the Gen Z.
Politicians couldn't ride in their SUVs no more.
Correct. Yeah. They were scared.
So I think we really have to take that template provided by the Gen Z. You know, no violence, but making people know that what they're doing is totally unacceptable. We've got to get there. We have the power. We don't have to have any physical violence. It is enough to shun. You find everywhere you go, you are shunned by your peers.
Finally, from me,
Mheshimiwa, real quick. Are you still across the border? Are you still defending Kizza Besigye?
Yeah, but now I have to apply for a fresh practicing certificate. The one I was given, and it's called temporary special practicing certificate, was specifically for the court martial at Makindye. So I asked for the advice of the law council whether now that the case has been transferred to the civil courts I can proceed. They said no, you got to apply. So my application is on its way.
Okay.
I've not given up on our colleagues.
Good.
Yeah.
If things continue the way they are, Mheshimiwa, does the Kenya Kwanza administration stand a chance when it comes to 2027?
I don't think so, but that decision lies with you and me as the voters. Fellow Kenyans and fellow voter, how are you going to cast your vote? Is it to relieve yourself pain or to inflict more? Those temporary gifts you receive, money stolen from you, should never count in your decision to vote for somebody. Vote for those with a given track record. And when I say vote, it's about every leader voted in, from MCA up to the presidency. We've really got to rethink the role of money in politics. Don't elect based on money. Elect based on the belief of who can work for you. And keep count of the many deaths happening in the Ruto administration. Keep track of every leader's action and seek to know, because a majority of voters were not around before. Seek to read reports available in the internet. You will be able to see the roles people have played, and you do not expect people to change. If one's name is synonymous to every public scandal, if one's name is synonymous with bloodletting, they can't be fit to preside over the affairs of the nation. And even in a smaller spaces, you will know who can be trusted to preside over the affairs of the people, because at every level, people know each other.